Hello, Tumors. Welcome back to another episode of the MindCancer podcast. Me, Macola, Taylor,
Howdy.
and Christian.
So,
This will be way different from what we usually do. This is more of a serious, darker topic. We're hoping to do more in the future. And we're going to be doing more than just this episode because we don't have enough time to dive as deep as we would like into this topic. But we want to do more true crime and conspiracy type. So today we're going to take a look into the missing 411. This is the disappearance or people getting lost track of in extremely weird and unusual circumstances around our national parks. Today we're focusing on the hunters, the guys that are armed, they know their land well, and generally shouldn't go missing without a trace. Now, the guy that brought all these into the public eye, David Paulides. This isn't some nutso conspiracy guy who just wants attention. This man has a 20-year career in law enforcement. He worked with SWAT teams, street crimes unit, and many other cases as a detective. I do have to mention, way earlier before he started Missing 411, he started a Bigfoot search group. But I don't believe it ruins his credibility. He never says these cases are related to any source. He just lays out the information and lets the reader or listener come to their own conclusion. No. All this started because two park rangers from completely different parks approached David and told him about extremely weird disappearances that had a lot in common between each other in two different parks that they were from. Now, David wanted to know more, so he contacted the government for a release of information on a list for all the missing people from the U.S. national parks. They asked what he wanted this information for. Keep in mind, they can't deny you this information because of what you want it for. They refused him, but also told him this list doesn't exist. Now, as an author, there are some weird loopholes you can get around to get more information like this. And when Paulides tried this, they told him his books weren't in enough libraries. He kept pressing. They said if he wanted a list for just Yosemite, it'd be $34,000. If you wanted a list for all the national parks in the U.S., it'd be $1.4 million for a list that supposedly doesn't exist. National parks keep lists of a lot of things, too, like movies filmed there, animal sightings, a bunch of other stuff. But not missing people for some reason. Also, they aren't even required to report any sort of missing people to anyone, FBI, any agencies, any part of the government. So currently, David has 8 books, 2 documentaries, and he has a pattern for the cases he'll look at. If there are things like signs of an animal attack or foul play, he'll just off the bat rule them out because they're not credible to what he's trying to do. A lot of these cases have really weird links to them, like people being found in places already searched, or their clothing or items being found in places already searched. If they are ever found, that's miles away from where they were last seen, or in places extremely hard to get over with rugged terrain, just places they would never go. And if sometimes there's just zero traces of them. Dogs can't get a scent at all. Professional trackers can't even get a start of a lead on them. And for no reason, really. There's a lot of them are found or disappear in boulder and granite fields. And a lot of people try to write this off as mountain lion attacks or animal attacks, but there's never blood, there's never shredded clothing or like flesh or anything. And there's only been 27 fatal mountain lion attacks in the last 100 years. And throughout all of his research and looking into these cases so far, David has amassed 2,000 cases that fit together in this established criteria.
So those noises you heard in the beginning are part of our first and potentially most credible case. We are looking into the mysterious noises recorded in the Sierra Mountains of California by Warren and Lewis Johnson, Bill McDowell, and Ron Moorhead. This case is unlike many of the others in that it lacks a common point of connection the cases have, but this case has solid evidence, and in our opinion, it is the most interesting and mysterious of them all. To preface, everyone was sober. No alcohol was even allowed in the campsite. These are very disciplined men. It's a successful hunting area, and they've come out here for years. The hunting grounds are in a remote area, lots of deer, fresh water. It's a very pristine area. No one realized what they were dealing with. One night in 1971, around dusk, they heard a noise coming from the distance. They heard sounds that could only be described as grunts or whoops. That's when they'd get inside the shelter, due to fear of what could be out there. Whatever it was described as large in nature. The noises would continue throughout the night. The men began to record their visual and audio of their experiences. The following audio was recorded by Ron Moorhead.
There's two of them across the creek at the big rocks. That's our job.
The hunters mimicked the noises, but they sound very different from the real, mysterious animal noises. The noises heard by the hunters are distinctly different and animalistic. The audio was analyzed by Dr. R. Lynn Curlin of the University of Wyoming, a professor in electrical engineering. He determined that the sounds were made by a creature physically larger than a human, 7 foot 3 inches to 8 feet tall, and there was more than one creature recorded. The dormant frequencies were lower than human, and their distribution does not indicate product of human vocalizations or speed alteration. The tape was proven to not be pre-recorded or re-recorded. The noises could be described as near-intelligent conversations, as they almost sound like a distinct unknown language being spoken. Many have analyzed the audio, and they match no known languages. This progressed to the point where the men would not sleep without the guns by their sides. Whatever the noises originated from is widely believed to be non-human, whether it be apes, aliens, or Bigfoot. No one can deny the mystery surrounding the Sierra noises. Hunters saw strange sights in the skies. They saw a big blue ball slowly intelligently moving across the sky. They saw elongated lights 3 feet long, like lightsabers in Star Wars. They moved slowly through the trees, and the hunters weren't embarrassed to tell the story. They wanted to solve it, or at least gain some understanding of it. And in 2014, the United States Forest Service discovered the camp they had and forced the hunters to remove the stove and barrels and dismantle the structure.
Okay, so the main thing that's bugging me about this towards the end is why would they force them to remove their shelter from that camping ground? Especially after audio and visual recordings have been found. They had sent in evidence to a professor with a PhD in electrical engineering, and they were actually getting somewhere in their investigation.
This isn't some just park ranger. This is like official U.S. government. It's not
it's
just
the
some
United States Forest Service that forced them to do this. And it's why?
Yeah. And the other thing, these guys, this was recorded in the 70s. These guys couldn't have just put this in Sony Vegas and put noises in. This is like their actual raw recording.
Exactly.
Do you have any idea, Christian?
And I think the fact that the creatures were responding to them actually when they tried to talk to them is really interesting.
Yeah, they mimicked their noises and they got responses.
Yeah.
And the professor who had analyzed this said that the vocal range was much greater than humans, and that the frequencies go above and below human capacity.
When we get really low, you can hear a grumble in our voices.
Yeah.
You couldn't with them. That was just extremely low.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
like they
not to-
weren't forcing it out of themselves.
And not to mention how there was the fire that destroyed everything around it.
yeah, but
then
left that area.
That area was just completely
Yeah.
fine. Which
yeah,
is,
somehow.
Which is nuts.
And what really bothered the guys that were around there is that during the night they could hear noises. It sounded like things were rattling around, things were being broken.
Didn't
moved.
one guy say that he thought he heard a car door shut?
Yeah, a car door
Yeah.
shut or like slammed. He thought it was one of their car doors, and it was nothing.
And
It
And
was
that's-
like,
they're
and then-
far
yeah,
into the
it-
forest.
yeah, it was like-
Miles away from.
they
any
said they would
road.
hear their stuff being moved, but then when they would wake up in the morning, everything would be placed back to normal.
Yeah, like you hear something rattling through their stuff.
Yeah.
Or
I remember like one guy was kind of being skeptical. And he's
And-
like, "Why wouldn't they go out there and check?" And it's like, if you hear whoops in the woods and like things laughing and chuckling,
yeah,
You're not gonna go out there.
no, you're terrified.
I'm sitting in that little makeshift shelter until it's
And,
morning.
like, This isn't some dude who's just going camping for his first time. These are experienced guys. They
Yeah,
have
and
a lot of
this
years
was
out
their
in here.
usual spot.
Yeah, so they don't scare easy to the woods.
And what bothers me is like the fact that it's not some really shitty footage of some big hairy creature moving slowly through the woods. Like no, these are
Yeah.
this is audio. It's tangible.
And like
It's not of human origin.
Yeah, but then they couldn't see anything.
They couldn't
either.
see,
couldn't see
anything either.
anything.
But it was so dark.
that
they
sounded
heard it,
quality,
that
they didn't see
sounded
anything.
clear though.
Yeah, it
that
was-
sounded like it was close.
Yeah. And they said
So-
it felt like it was above them
Yeah, they said that too.
and that they're being watched.
And I don't want
Like-
to cop out with the aliens response, but the blue orb is
Yeah.
something.
Weird. And like, okay, these guys don't have anything to gain out of this. There's no financial gain for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
They just actually want to know what the fuck happened.
Okay. I have a little bit of like a kind of tangible conspiracy thought maybe though. Is like, okay, United States Forest Service discovered their camp site and forced them to move it and dismantle it and get out of there and not come back. Well, what if that blue strobe, because some people posit like, oh, maybe it was some kind of escaped experiment or like lab rat type thing. Maybe the blue strobe was them looking for it. And that's why they were so hushity about, get out of here, dismantle your campsite after it became big, was because, yeah, they were looking for something that was them searching for whatever got out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a total stretch, but that's the only thing where I could see those two theories lining up.
Anything about this isn't really a stretch. Nothing makes fucking
Nothing
sense.
makes sense. Like, it's
Just
aliens, it's Bigfoot, it's
Like-
something. And that's what's really great about
like
this one. is-
again, you hear them go from like high
Yeah.
pitched
Yeah, and then at the
to just
end they just
really low.
and that's
yeah, and
like-
it sounds like just spoken word.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like
Some
language,
sort of
not
language,
just
but
not just
nothing
whoops.
that's been-
yeah.
Nothing that's been
And
figured out what language
They
it is.
under
It's just
they
something.
understand to reply when they hear the
When they're
noise
mimicking.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What spooks me is that you can
Like-
hear the distinction between the hunters like mimicking and like the actual animalistic
Yeah.
foreign noises being made.
And
Yeah.
and the fact that credited scientists
Yeah, I
have
couldn't
looked at
find
this
anything-
and known,
I couldn't
like
find
they've
anything
said
that questioned Dr. Lynn Curlin's credibility. Like,
Exactly.
This guy was respected. He knew his shit. He was perfectly fine. Like,
just like
uh,
the thing is this one has tangible evidence, and
possible explanations.
that makes it so far different from everything else
Everything
we're going
else
to cover.
has a lot of
because
evidence, but there's no
no one
explanation.
goes
There's-
missing here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
no
one
one
goes
goes
missing
missing.
here.
It's
But
just
that's the weird thing about this one is there's evidence
Yeah.
to it. The thing about all the other ones is there's literally nothing.
yeah.
Dogs can't pick up scents. No shred of clothing usually,
Yes.
unless it's miles away
We
from
will
where they were
elaborate
seen.
on this more, especially in the further
Yeah.
stories.
Next one we want to cover about the kids that go missing in like national parks.
There's a lot of connections between them.
There's
That's extremely
it's
suspicious.
so weird. But like I just don't.
I love that the dude described it as being like a lightsaber. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, it makes sense because Star Wars came out shortly after these incidents happened, so they were just using things that everyone gets what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
A
Like
blue
it was.
strobe.
Yeah. These guys aren't the ones to just
Yeah.
make up crazy ideas for attention. They just like to vibe in their camp spot until really, really weird shit happened. And they just want to know what it is. They want info. Like, I would too, dude.
Yeah.
Like-
One thing that I saw too was that they did stop going there for a good amount of years after that.
Fuck, I would.
Like,
God
they
damn,
only
dude.
recently returned. That's why in 2014 they kind of started it back up. I think in the 2010s, then until 2014. But yeah, it's just this one's a doozy.
Just crazy. I don't get how that can just be recorded and everyone's just like, yeah, Like, have you heard anything about this? Mainstream news?
No, man. It's,
Like,
You think it would
it
be in
seems like
scientific journals
it's
and
just
stuff.
being silenced.
Yeah.
But so that's this case. Extremely weird. But I think Taylor, you wanna cover our next one?
All right, let's do it. All right, tumors. Our next case brings us to Lima, Ohio, August 29th, 2010. The area around here was known as the 15-acre woods. It was a small town, and our story begins with the housewife Jan. She was out hunting up in her deer stand when the woods went dead quiet, just suddenly. She could hear no birds, no crickets, nothing. The sun was still up, it was clear weather, but Jan had some kind of fogginess in her eyes. She wiped her eyes, and then the first thing that she saw was some kind of visual distortion in front of her. It looked almost like the Predator suit from the famous movie. She was able to see the outline of some kind of creature, and it moved between the trees. She was able to see a distinct figure's arm reach out, grab a branch, and move from one tree to the next. The encounter only lasted 9 to 11 seconds. She was completely frozen during this time. What she described as the blob came from nowhere. She took a picture of it with her camera phone, and then sounds had returned. She stayed there till sundown, completely shocked by what had happened. Now, we'll get up to the camera photo later, but just to let you know, it is reported that the quality of the photo and the resolution was unobtainable by this type of camera. This camera had 3 resolution settings, and this photo was not taken in any of them, but was taken by this camera. One of the main reasons why we're even covering this case, beyond just one woman's testimony, is the fact that there's the sheer number of witnesses. Because at 11:30 p.m., her husband Bruce had received an email from his nephew, Matthew, a student at Shawn High School, a nearby high school that was having band practice. And the students had reported seeing, just before dark, late August that night, between 6 and 7 p.m., a bright light in the sky. It had come out of nowhere. They all watched it stunned. Even the band teacher, who had always had them do their drills, stopped and looked and wondered what they were watching. It was a clear and hot night. The object was candle orange, no definable edges. It happened within the same time frame as Jan's story, maybe shortly after, with only a half a mile between the sightings. 30 to 40 children were witnesses to this, as well as 3 adults. Now, one of the biggest things about this event is the fact that Jan, because she feared being, accused of lying or just misremembering or seeing incorrectly, hadn't told her husband about this until her nephew had told them the exact same type of incident had happened to them. Now, how these 2 events are linked is unknown, but it does seem like some kind of foreign creature or some unidentifiable object was in the area that day over in Lima, Ohio. And to this day, it still remains a mystery.
So, what the fuck do we have to say about this? Like,
I don't know, it's so strange because it's 2 very distinct sightings, but it's the sheer amount of witnesses for the second one, and the fact that they seem related in the same time frame, same location.
Like you said reached its arm out. It wasn't even like that. It was like it more just stretched its being out to the other tree and then pulled itself.
She described it as kind of
like
like
a
what she would
blob.
perceive as an arm, yeah.
Yeah, and the trees were like 12 to 14 feet apart.
Yeah,
it said.
12 to 14 feet apart is what
It
she
didn't
had
just
said.
like jump to it with
No.
And
legs.
Another
it just
thing is
moved its
Yeah.
being.
when you said about when the woods just went dead quiet, the band was practicing at that time.
Exactly.
And she could hear the marching band when she was sitting up in the stand.
She could
And
hear the
then
marching
just-
band, but she heard nothing.
Yeah, it
No
just-
crickets, no
crickets.
bird songs,
No birds,
nothing.
no bugs. She said that she could barely hear anything, and it was just dead silent.
No, I know nobody's gone missing yet. We're building up to that with our next case, but these first 2 are just so, insane.
They're so insane, but they also have like just enough evidence to them to make them really mysterious and also
Like-
credible in a way.
like, okay, this is I don't want to say older woman, but like a bit past middle-aged woman. She doesn't know how to mess with software settings and change resolutions on her camera.
Yeah, and
like-
plus the camera couldn't even get to that
It
small of a
couldn't
resolution.
do that.
Yeah, it's just
It physically couldn't.
Now, to preface, the photo is a bit blurry and kind of shitty, but the fact that it's in that resolution at
When
that
the phone
time-
couldn't do that.
exactly, it just
That's
shows.
like displaying 4K on my 1080p monitor.
Exactly. It's just
You can't. You physically can't.
it's just so strange. And what I think gives this a lot of credibility too is just the children witnessing it.
Yeah.
Because that event for sure
30 to 40
I
witnesses.
believe happened. Because what would they get out of line about this?
Yeah.
And they're the ones who contacted Bruce and Jan.
I feel like this ties in really well to the earlier case where there's a light in the sky, but maybe the light changes colors for the people in the woods out there. But then there's also the predator. They couldn't see it. It came from the trees.
Exactly. My biggest question is, what if that is some kind of creature? What is it doing out there, and why is it camouflaged?
And it did nothing to her.
It did
Just
nothing to her.
observing
But then
people.
again,
It's just-
like,
yeah.
it looked like they were just observing. Because
They're
let's think
watching
about it this way: a
There's
lot of people are like, oh, why wouldn't it be like the Phoenix Lights, where it goes to a big populated city? But like, if you're studying like a species, you would do it in like the smallest
Like-
controlled environment.
Like the
amounts
scientists
could.
that just go out to the Galapagos for like 2 years, secluded, isolated,
Yeah.
and just observe.
Because
I feel like the only reason why we have the audio of them speaking is probably because maybe they didn't know that people were there.
oh yeah, the creatures before in the
They
previous
didn't
story,
know
exactly.
that they were there.
Exactly.
So they were comfortable with speaking.
Until
and
they
communicating.
returned, until the hunters started mimicking, maybe they started returning it back to be like, yeah, we know you're out here.
Yeah.
And I like the guy's theory that he had about the first story, was that they were trying to scare them away, maybe,
Yeah.
to make sure they didn't come at them, and it worked, obviously.
I mean, I would have listened.
I would have listened too.
I ain't staying around no fucking creepy hillbilly laughing out in the middle of the woods.
Exactly. And the big takeaway from this story, I think, is that these two stories, well, they're not as connected to the next ones, which are a lot more kind of mysterious
We're
in
about
way.
to get into some deep shit.
Yeah, these ones I think are very interesting because they have what you could say is circumstantial evidence, but they also have a large number of witnesses. Because the other ones, there's just nothing. You just don't know. These ones, there's at least some kind of possible explanation.
Yeah, I don't know what to have for an explanation on this.
Yeah,
Like
who knows?
everything I think of, it's shot down by some other part of these stories.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway of these two is that there needs to be thorough investigating done, and that these at least merit some further looking into. They shouldn't just be discarded and...
But
just-
like again, like our last case, have you ever heard about this?
No. Like,
No, this shit just gets
And why
silenced.
haven't I? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's very
Like-
interesting stuff.
Okay, one of my things is I think a lot of this, maybe it isn't a conspiracy, but the national parks need to shut this shit down, because if the major public learns about all this, do you know how much profit they're gonna lose?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, it'll scare people out of them. They're not going to want to go where people are disappearing.
Exactly. And that's why I think we should transition into our next stories about the national parks.
all right. And to start our first case where someone actually goes missing, on July 30th, 2014, Audrey Kaplan, a 75-year-old woman, went on a hike looking for mushrooms with her husband in the Santa Fe ski resort. This wasn't somewhere way hard to get. This was a popular place to pick mushrooms, way established trail, and she was a active, healthy woman for her age. After a while walking this trail, at some point they got separated, and the same day her husband called a search and rescue, and a search was started. They searched heavily up and down this mountain, and days later, a searcher way outside the general search area stumbled upon a weird scene 2 miles from the point of separation. A small, raggedy, barely put together camp with gear strewn about, and a body was found in the fetal position nearby, face down and about 4 to 5 inches of water, naked. The coroner ruled her cause of death to be hypothermia in one of the hottest times of year in this area. However, there was no physical evidence of hypothermia, and also nothing indicating drowning. And for the next one in this area, I'll pass it off to Taylor for the next case.
Alright, so this next case is kind of a doozy because there's no actual hard evidence. Our victim is Melvin Nadell, age 61, and this happened September 6th, 2009. Now, Mel was an elk hunter, and he was driving in his truck to meet his usual hunting buddies over at Elk Mountain. His house was only 2 hours away from the mountain, and he arrived there about 4 p.m. He met up with his friends, and they described the area as nice, tranquil, not too big, good for hunting elk, bear, and a few mountain lions. It's an area mostly for affluent men and experienced hunters, so these guys knew what they were doing. Mel stayed back and set up a little makeshift blind in the trees to hunt from, because the other guys didn't have a knee injury that Mel had, and they were able to go hike out way further than he was. And Mel stuck within about 100 to 150 yards from his truck and their original meeting spot, which was the trail. He was close enough to easily find his way back if he had gotten lost, and he could have used the sun to navigate. Now, the plan was for Mel to stay the night camping, and so no one really expected him back too soon. But when the guys came back a little bit after sundown, they knew that Mel was gone, and there was no way he left somewhere without his truck, because due to Mel's knee injury, there was no way he jogged or walked long distances. And he wasn't the type of guy to walk miles while hunting, so that makes the search area extremely small. And what makes this case so confusing that there was no evidence ever found. Mel had gear on him, his hunting gear, he had his bow, his gun, but none of it was ever found. He was just completely left blank. And now this case is very similar to one that came nearby, and I would like Christian be able to cover this one.
On November 7th, 2017, Stanley Virgil, aged 54, went missing 10 miles away from Melvin Nadell. Stanley was driving along dirt roads looking for deer. Eventually, Stanley comes across a deer on the road, and he decides to chase the deer. As soon as he starts to chase the deer, fog and heavy rain hit the area. He apparently wanders seemingly blindly. Once a search party is formed, the dogs can't find him, and helicopters can't see him. 5 months later, an off-duty police officer fishing in the river finds a body. The coroner eventually identified him as Stanley Virgil, and he was found with skull injuries and broken ribs 9 miles away from the point of separation.
So, all right, boys. All of these happened in relatively the same area, the little Santa Fe National Park. And so Audrey Kaplan's is really weird, I think, because just so far away from her original search area she was found, naked, face down in the water in a fetal position with no actual, like, cause of death.
And with none of her clothes ever found?
Yeah, none of her
nearby?
clothes. And just, like, her little makeshift camp. Like, she had to make that really fast. Must have, like, been scared or something that she knew was going to catch up with her. Like, I don't know about it.
Audrey is the one that just really kind of fucks with me, because it's the idea of, you're part of the search party. Maybe you go off, the beaten path and you're trying to cover more area, and you just find this body that's just curled up, lying down, face down in the water. And, what was she the one who made the campsite all, strewn like that?
No, what I'm confused about is, I don't think they were planning to stay the night anywhere. They were just going to get mushrooms. Why would they have gear?
Yeah, why would she have
They
so
were just
much
going to go
camp
get
gear?
mushrooms.
Well,
Where did she... I don't
know
think
if it was, like camping gear or more just, like plastic...
Water
bottle.
It might have been something like that. But
Maybe like a poncho if it rained.
Maybe a camelback or something.
Yeah.
But
Just, like,
still,
Yeah.
it's just...
But the other thing is, she's not some, like, old, rickety woman that trips on a stick and breaks every bone she has. She's in good condition. She's active.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing.
Okay.
Like,
And you know what fucks with me is...
they had a house nearby. They know this area.
Yeah. What fucks with me, though, is that they're talking about how this guy was, way away from their, coordinated search area. But she was only found 2 miles away from the point of separation. Most of these people are found, 11, 9...
That's still, 2 miles.
2 miles,
though.
yeah. But I'm saying, she didn't go super far, and could they have already, other cases happened, already have searched that area, and then she was there later after they had searched? Because that happens a lot in the future cases coming up where, they search, they swear they saw nothing, and then just, it's like stuff just appears. And it's
Placed
Audrey a
there by
case of that.
something.
Was she placed there?
And I don't think she would have kept that form for very long.
No.
An animal would have came by, a stronger part of the stream would have came and,
Exactly.
blown her into, face down.
No, they were looking for
Plain?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
and didn't the coroner's report say that when he first went there, she wasn't face down in the water?
Yeah.
But
But then the
police-
pictures show
but
she
then the
was.
police-
Yeah, and the
photos show
police
that she
photos
was.
and everything, yeah.
So it's what's...
But there's no indication of drowning.
Yeah.
There's no actual evidence of hypothermia. It's the hottest time of the year.
Yeah,
in
there was
Santa Fe.
one storm, which I think someone could weather. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Her whole cause of death, the fact that that's a big mystery here too, just calls everything else into question.
And this isn't
Because we don't even know why
This
woman
isn't
died.
someone to go way out of their way for something.
No.
They're just going for a couple mushrooms and going home.
Yeah, and it was 2 miles. I mean, 2 miles is not that far away at all.
Our next case, the Melvin Nadell.
Yeah, this guy,
This,
I do not understand at all how this guy disappeared. I mean,
how old was he?
he was
61.
61-year-old man.
61-year-old guy with a knee injury.
He's heavy set.
He's not wandering miles upon miles out into the woods getting lost.
Yeah, they left him behind
He's-
on purpose because they would go out for a couple miles and he would always
Like,
stay within a couple hundred yards.
It even said in the thing, he left his GPS in his truck because he knows I'm going right over there.
Yeah,
I'm not going to need it. I'm going right over there.
and he knew the direction of his truck. He would be able to use the sun. Like, there's no way he would get lost.
No. And
And the fact that the only thing they found was the makeshift blind
Mm-hmm.
and nothing else.
Meant he set
didn't
up.
find his gun, didn't find his clothes, didn't find blood, didn't find a shoe, nothing.
What bugs me too is that he didn't leave his gun or bow there. It was gone with him. And the fact that he had set up his makeshift blind there showed that he had actually reached his destination.
Mhm.
He didn't get lost in between, and he had probably planned to stay there.
What reason does he have to just
Disappeared.
wander? None. He wouldn't.
Exactly.
Like, he's an experienced guy. That's the thing with all of these. They're experienced people, and they just gone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's just not right.
And what wigs
And
me out is how close he was to another disappearance.
yeah, all of these just bang, 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 right in the same area. It's so weird. Stanley Virgil, age 54, 10 miles from Melvin. Only 10 miles. And he jumped out of his truck, fog came in, and he was gone.
What bugs me too is 10 miles. That's about the distance between the point of separation to finding the bodies for some of these people. 11, 9. This is kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
makes it seem like they were so close.
Fog comes in as he's running for the deer. He's gone.
Yeah, and they
He's
said,
never seen again.
they had said in their interviews that it was almost instantaneously. It seemed like when he got out of the truck and started running, just fog rolled in.
And then, what, he was found in that creek
Yeah,
5
5
months.
months.
5
later.
months later.
And 9 miles away down
Yeah.
the creek.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't... Again, these aren't the guys to do that.
Exactly. And he was just chasing one deer. Like,
I don't think he would chase it for 9 miles in fog.
No.
and I
No
don't
way
think
he would do that, I don't think.
Like,
And the
I
fact
feel
what
like he would
bugs
just go
me-
back to the truck after a little bit.
he
Exactly.
maybe go a mile in, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goes a mile and he's
Maybe
like,
not even that because
shit.
the fog
That's a
set
long
in.
ways, too.
Especially with that fog, like, you're not going to be able to get very far, I don't think,
No.
and trying to move around. And what bugs me, too, is that the search party was formed. The dogs couldn't find him. Helicopters couldn't see him.
Oh, another thing that's all related in these that I forgot to put in our intro. A lot of these happen near bodies of water.
Near water,
Yes.
exactly.
And-
Even with the children,
Yeah.
as we'll get to eventually. They
Like-
all sort of happen near water, it seems like.
And then these injuries he had, skull injuries, broken ribs.
How did those happen? Did he fall?
We're not
and
given a
fall into the
reason.
river? Exactly,
Like-
and
I feel like the only plausible thing could be if there was some sort of cliff right next to where he fell. He chased a deer for 9 miles and fell down, but I don't think that's what happened there.
exactly.
That's
and
the
then-
only thing that could be, like that's the
Like, it's
most
almost-
logical solution.
It's
but I don't
almost
think that's what
Dyatlov-like. Just
Yeah.
no idea where the injuries are from.
Exactly, and it's just
Like, you don't just get a skull injury and broken ribs from tripping over a little, like, stick in the woods.
happened. Unless
Exactly.
you fall far distance.
You fall a far distance, or something did that to you.
Yeah.
exactly. And here's the biggest thing that I think really bugs me is that the fact that he was found in the water means that his actual the point where he fell or the point where he actually went missing
Was
Could be-
into the water.
was into the water, which could
Or
be totally different.
Placed into the
Or
water.
placed in the water, which could be totally different from where he was found. Because where he was found, if it's in water, it could have been, you know, upstream somewhere.
Yeah, if he was 9 miles away, it could have carried his body a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know. This whole Santa Fe cluster just kind of
It's
spooks me
just-
out. There's too many similarities between
And
these.
yeah, there's many more, like that we aren't covering right now, but.
Yes,
I know.
these are just some.
And
This-
the fact that these all take place from 2009 to 2017 and they're all so close to each other,
these
less than 10 years apart.
these missing national park cases go back 100 years almost, and that's just what we have the data for. And like I said in the beginning, this is just what we have the data for.
And
These
these are the ones that are reported.
yeah,
Actually,
these parks are not required to report this.
Exactly.
There
which-
could be like,
These cases that we know of are because people called in search teams.
yeah.
and it could be possible
And how
that
many
like
do they suppress?
whole families could be going disappearing, but we don't know that
Because they're not required to search. I know.
Yeah, there's
they
nobody
tried.
to-
I don't remember what part of the government it was. I'll have to look into it. But they tried to make a database where like the DNR, park services should all legally
Yes.
be required to report to it.
This gets brought up in the one about the children. the
And I think
documentary.
only like 12% actually reported to it.
Exactly, which is just what
Why?
you're a national.
What reason do you have to not report?
You're a national service. Like if you can go,
It would hurt
if you can-
business.
yeah, if you can go spy on Granny and Noosh, running the deli, I think you can have a database of missing people in government property. Come
Like
on now.
you can say, "Oh yeah, this Disney original was filmed here. We have all the lists of every one of them."
But you
Oh,
can't
but-
tell me who went missing or has died in these parks.
Exactly. It's just
It's as if they don't want.
They want to keep up their image.
They want to
it
keep
good.
Keep up
and
their
they don't want
image,
these stories coming out.
and they don't. Yeah. Again, have any of you
No.
heard about this before I brought it to you
No,
guys?
I haven't heard
And
about
No,
this. at all.
exactly. It seems like it's trying to be suppressed. They don't want us to know.
And one thing is that bugs me is like, is it just image or is it more nefarious than that? Like, is there? Because there's so many connection points between these that
because
are the connections pure coincidental?
there's so many theories you could give to this.
And that's
like-
what makes it so tantalizing and interesting.
I know. I've heard feral people. I've
some
heard.
shit out of wrong turn.
Could be like some sort of cult even of
But-
copycat killers all doing the same type of thing.
But you think
also-
about that.
Even then,
How-
How do
are
they?
they-
How do they
yeah.
remove their scent? How do they leave no tracks?
Yeah, how do they do?
How
this?
do they get up this rugged terrain and place these bodies there?
right? Exactly.
How do they take down armed hunters?
What bugs me is how long
Armed. These
Sometimes
men have
these
weapons.
people are either found
they're
immediately
good
or
with them.
long after, and it's just very
Yeah.
weird because it always seems like they're placed. It almost seems as though they were used for something and then just left behind.
Not even used for something. They were just dumped somewhere.
Yeah,
It's
there
like,
1 second,
It's
dumped the next.
Yeah.
it's like a zodiac, like taunting people. Like, hey, look at you see this thing intentionally placed here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna find them.
Which we will get to, especially in our upcoming case.
in our next case, yeah. On November 15th, 2015, in Horicon, New York, 82-year-old Tom Messick, along with 3 other guys around the same age, went hunting and were watchers. Tom was blind in one eye and partially deaf. The men were about 100 yards apart and only about 30 to 40 feet into the woods off of the trail. While 3 younger hunters pushed the animals toward them, one of the older men recounted hearing a sound distinctly unlike anything he's heard in the woods before, up on the hill about 150 yards away from them. After they finished up, they tried to get into contact with him over the radio. They realized he was nowhere to be found. They called out for him. They fired shots in the air. When searchers came out, they used string to show the grids that they have already been through. They covered miles upon miles of forest, and they couldn't find a trace of him. The search continued till November 24th, when our next case took place very close to Tom, and McCullough will tell you about that one.
All right. On November 24th, 2015, the same day that Tom's search ended, only 40 miles south from where Tom went missing, 68-year-old Fred Drum went missing from his rural home in Schroylerville, New York. None of his belongings were missing, so this wasn't a robbery. No sign of him was ever found. All right, boys. So what the hell do we think about these?
I don't know. I mean, Tom's, at least there's people there. You can at least come up with some kind of theory, but
like
Fred,
82-year-old man, how does he just wander off in a forest?
He doesn't. There's no way
Like
he went.
think if you
anywhere.
have grandparents that age, think of them just going out for like a 12-mile hike.
Yeah, my 72-year-old grandpa's not going fucking anywhere.
They don't.
82, dude.
Like, and he's a watcher too. He's not supposed to move.
He's disciplined. Like, this is an
yeah.
experienced guy. He's been doing this his whole life.
He's a veteran too.
He knows to stay put and to wait. That was his whole point. Was that the younger ones were gonna
They
get
move the
down.
animals towards them,
Yeah.
and so he knows he stays put. He doesn't move. He waits till the animals are brought to him, and he hunts.
And you notice a lot of these guys are about 100, 150 yards
They're
away
not
from
far.
things.
They're not far.
Like the experienced older guys that don't move a lot, they always keep 100, 150 yards. Like, they know what to do.
And like the one dude who in the documentary said he heard that noise up on that hill, just so distinctly unlike anything they've heard in the forest.
And I think, and when they were searching the area, they realized that the terrain was fucking nuts. Like, chest deep swamps. No way he's gonna be walking through a
Yeah,
chest
there's
deep
no way
swamp or
Tom
whatever.
Messick's going through there.
Or
Like,
rough terrain or anything.
why would
No.
he? Why would he move from his position? There's no reason.
I think the only reason would be if something spooked him really fucking bad.
Yeah.
But then, wouldn't have one of the other guys who were nearby seen it, or wouldn't he have shot it,
Or
or
something.
wouldn't he have made noise, or wouldn't he have relayed it over his radio?
Yeah.
Exactly. And they covered so extensively the
And
area with the string.
Not a trace, not a jacket, not a bullet that he dropped.
Not even
Not
the
his
fucking
rifle, not his
rapper,
hat.
Bugs
not
means
the
that.
rapper from
Yeah,
his
not the
bar that he
rapper
ate.
from his snack. There was nothing.
And what bugs me is there's over a week of searching. Over a week that they
Yeah.
looked for him.
And
And then immediately when they stop, another guy goes missing.
yeah, the same day, only 40 miles south. Like, this is close.
And Fred, I feel so bad for Fred's family because there's nothing.
I
It's
feel
like-
bad for all their families
it's
when they
like-
just have nothing to cling on to. There's no body usually. There's, or if it is, it's long time. Or just the amount of closure these people get is none.
It's legit like Fred just clipped out of reality. He's gone.
Like, and the way they searched for Tom, they realized these are thick, hard to navigate woods. They put up the string around trees. They built a grid system to show we've searched here. There's nothing here. And they keep going and they keep
And they
going
would
and they
double
keep going
back
and they keep
and go
going and
the
they keep
opposite way
going.
through grids they already made. And then they would zigzag. Like, they did everything.
Like,
they
so
possibly
heavily
could.
searched. Not a trace, not a footprint, not a scent any dog could latch onto. Nothing. And, like, again, 82-year-old veteran who has so many years doing this. Just why? And this is November in New York, so it's getting colder too. So there's just no reason for this. And then for how close in time people started searching for him, they started shooting, popping off shots. He knows what that means.
Yeah.
He would have shot back.
And with how cold it is and how old he is and just all the circumstances, the terrain, there's no way he would have been able to move far.
No.
If he died in that area from natural circumstances, they should have been able to find a body very, very soon.
and-
close.
Like the next case we're about to get into, where there's actually like tangible stuff.
It's still so
There's nothing here. This man just fell through the ground. He's gone. There's like nothing.
And
Do you
for
have
this
anything?
next case, you really need to buckle up. This one's gonna be a long one,
Oh yeah, it's a
big
doozy.
case.
And we'll have Taylor be telling you that one right here.
Alright, so our next case finds us in the crazy mountains of Montana. We begin with a hunter, Aaron Hedges, aged 36. He went missing on September 5th, 2014. Aaron was with his two friends. They had gone out to hunt at Campfire Lake for a pack-in hunting trip. The area was extremely rugged with dangerous terrain, but it had a specific trail they were meant to follow that would lead to one of Aaron's many caches that they had set up previously. Now, according to local accounts, the mountains were known as crazy due to a supposed curse that had been placed upon the area by the Crow native tribe. The land used to be a Crow reservation, and when they were forced to leave in the 1800s, they had placed a curse upon the land, and the curse was meant to bring winds that blow hard and loud to drive the white man crazy. Yeah, some spooky shit. Alright. Aaron's disappearance is very unusual, as he's a healthy, younger male, and he's a very experienced hunter, and he's been to this trail before. Him and his buddies had used these grounds before. They had been hunting out here. They were experienced, well knowledgeable. Aaron was said to have a good common sense, and that he had known this land like the back of his hand. Now, we don't know when, but at some point, Aaron had gotten lost and was trailed off from his intended trail, and he had followed the creek for 11 miles. Now, according to the official theory, Aaron was suffering from hypothermia, and had somehow traveled 6 more miles while severely hypothermic, and without his boots. Somehow, during this time, he didn't drop his heavy bow, or leave behind his pack, or any evidence that he had walked down 6 more miles with hypothermia. Now, Aaron, like I said before, was known for having good common sense and knowledge of the land. And one thing that is extremely suspicious and makes no sense is why he would trail off 11 miles down that creek. And at the fork he had trailed off from, his GPS was pinned for the last time, only a few, very, very few yards away from his intended point of the trail. Now, in the following days it had snowed 18 to 24 inches within 12 hours. But the thing is that Aaron wasn't traveling down that stretch of land when it had snowed. So he would have had perfect, clear, hot days and been able to clearly see the correct trail. Now, most of the snow had melted, and maybe about 6 inches was left, so none of the snow could have covered his body or hid it very well, not long enough for it to get frozen or drug off by some animal. He would have known he was lost and on the wrong path. And during the beginning, there was no visible trail marks. There were no evidence that he was moving in this incorrect area. The search parties, though, had eventually found some of his belongings placed in a seemingly intelligent manner. His boots were placed next to each other, facing upright, pointed together. A makeshift fire pit was there, and his backpack's waistbands had been left behind. Now, it's extremely unlikely that he proceeded to travel for miles with this heavy gear, and he would have intentionally removed those waistbands that would have helped him lift that load. And no one saw these a day or two when they had actually searched this area. It's as though they had just been placed there, left behind, by Aaron or by somebody else. Now, I know these are just claims, but I think that these professionals knew what they were doing, and that when they say that nothing was there, then truly nothing was there, and that these items were just suddenly appeared. It could have been hypothermia, but why would he remove his boots when he knew that he would be traveling miles if he was going to some intended location in this rugged terrain? His feet would be cut, and it would be agonizing to walk 6 more miles barefooted. I mean, especially with the loose boulders all over. I mean, that's another thing. Loose boulders, they always come up in a lot of these cases, especially the ones with children or with these experienced hunters. And this is dangerous terrain to walk with boots, let alone barefooted. I mean, you could take one step forward and then be slid back a few more steps and lose your footing. And this is for experienced men at this dangerous elevation. Now, one of the officers, Officer Allen, he even posits that Aaron couldn't have moved very far after leaving his boots if he was that severely hypothermic, and that they wouldn't go that far, and that they would have found his body within a very short radius. But the thing is, the next items found were miles away. Now, all of the items that were placed in these areas were in areas that they had searched, and they seemed to always be placed with intent. Even Allen had said that he believes that there's more things going on here than that can be explained, and that something had to have been done intentionally, whether done by Aaron or somebody else. And during this investigation, 2 whole counties, the Park County and the Sweetgrass County, both began to search for him in 2 distinct locations. There were no visible footprints on the trail, and 2 dog teams were sent searching, and they found no scent, nothing, not even that of someone else. The formal search finally ended on September 22nd, 2014. A total of 60 ground searchers, 20 canine teams, and 2 helicopters had failed to find him. What's even more mysterious is that only 9 months later, on June 22nd, 2015, on the property of the Rain family, the Rains found a backpack leaning against the tree. When they investigated it, the pack had said that it belonged to Aaron, and inside they had found food that he could have eaten to survive. His bow and his .44 gun were found there, placed against the tree purposefully. A few yards away, a little bit higher elevation, his thermos and his energy drink were placed, intentionally left there for months, if he had left them earlier, on this rock. And at that point, he definitely could have seen their property, their home, and the nearby road that would lead to safety. Now it gets even darker when 23 months after this investigation began, on August 8th, 2016, investigators found Aaron's pelvis, fragments of his skull, his cell phone, his light jacket, and his socks under a dead tree. Some of these items were partially buried. Now, The coroner did not and was not able to determine a cause of death. Aaron's case appears to be another one of these that will remain unsolved.
All right. So, boys, this is our last case. But holy shit, this one's a doozy. None of this makes sense at all together.
No.
Like,
circumstantially, certain things can appear that, like, yeah, they can make some kind of sense, but when you put it all
like,
together,
okay.
there's no coherence.
This man knows the land so well, he has special caches set up around it.
Exactly, and he's done this before. He has multiple.
Like,
And he never made it to his first cache.
and was it the sheriff that said it, that
Yes.
the
Alan.
trails were very distinct?
Yeah, Alan said
If
it
he
was
went,
very distinct.
if he went past that fork in the road,
would see
he knew he went
He would
past that
see
road.
the creek, he would know it, and he would know it within a couple hundred yards.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, some people try to posit that, oh, maybe it's because of the storm. But the storm came days after. He would have passed that. He would have known.
Like, okay, I get that when you're deep in hypothermia, you feel like everything's burning you up. So yeah, I would have understood if they found his shirt, his jacket, his pants there. But this man knew the terrain he was going over, would never have left his boots.
And even if he did, there's no way he would have made it another 6 miles.
We would have
on that
found blood on the rocks.
His body probably would have slid into the creek.
Yeah, like he wasn't walking over that. If Christian, if you can add a picture here of what the terrain looked like.
Yeah.
This was horrible.
Treacherous terrain. I wouldn't want to go on this with boots, with climbing gear,
No.
let alone
Like,
without.
it looks so soft, and like you slide a foot, you're sliding the entire the way down.
Exactly.
It's so jagged, and just you wouldn't walk over this with no boots, let alone fully geared up even.
Exactly.
For how many miles?
11 miles, 6 more without his boots.
Like, even 6 miles on that with his boots is just no.
Walk a mile without shoes, no socks, and tell me how it feels.
Even just on pavement. On pavement.
That sucks.
That's
No,
hell.
and by that time it had snowed. So he was walking over boulders that are covered in snow
Yeah.
without boots
For the
on.
later half of his trek, exactly.
And like,
And the fact that when they originally searched that area and they found nothing.
Nothing.
And then they come back a little bit later
And boots.
and there's the boots.
And there's these
And
little,
there's the waist
there's these
strap.
little inklings, like, and little evidence pieces left behind.
I remember I had a waist strap on one of my backpacks in like 7th grade, and if you put that thing on, it's so easy to carry. Your backpack doesn't sway
And
back and forth.
and
Your
it's-
stuff doesn't like jump as
Exactly.
much on you. It's such an easier load.
And I'm about to dismantle the official theory. They posit that he took those waistbands off to use his gloves because of the weather. But they also posit that he took everything off, including his boots, because he was severely hypothermic. Would a severely hypothermic person take off their clothes, their boots, but then put on additional clothing onto their hands?
Exactly.
If he's delirious, then he wouldn't be doing that. If
No.
he's extremely hypothermic, I don't think he'd be adding anything onto him. He probably would have left his pack behind. There's no way he would have made that trek.
No, and like you said, the thermos and the energy drink just sitting there.
Sitting there,
Like, okay.
9 months later.
Mountain winds would have blown that shit over in less than a week. Because
Exactly.
it's not like a 30-pound weight.
No.
It's just a little thermos.
Yeah, you leave a water bottle out in your backyard, maybe on your patio, for like 2 days. I bet you that
It's probably blown over.
It's probably blown over. It's moved. It's disturbed. Especially an energy drink.
Not
especially
just
if it was used.
sitting there.
I
It's
think
not
that's
just
the
sitting
scariest thing is
Is
that,
that-
it's just sitting
Yeah,
there.
like he was
Yeah.
having
And
tea.
from that exact
He
spot,
can
you can
see the
look,
house.
see the house.
You
And
see the house?
the
That's
road
it.
for safety.
Yeah, like
He
it's
just
not-
didn't go.
Like, if he did
and
disappear due to
his
nefarious
backpack
reasons?
was leaning against the tree.
Leaning against.
It's not like he was running and it fell off.
No.
He took that off. He placed it there, or maybe not him, but it was placed there, along with his bow and
His
gun.
gun.
And like, you don't carry a heavy weapon 11 miles.
Especially 6 without your boots,
But-
hypothermic,
Yeah, you.
on that treacherous boulder fields, on this cliff near the creek, all the way. And what's really nefarious is that if this was someone else who's leaving these items behind, is that some kind of message to the Rain family?
But
of
then-
having that there,
but-
overlooking their home?
the thing is though, like, I don't think it's
not nefarious.
It's
I'm just
not-
saying.
I don't
I'm
know
just
if it-
positing.
no, it
I don't
might be
think it is. It
nefarious.
might be.
but I don't know if it's a land being, because no tracks, no scent, nothing to pick up even a scent on him.
I think for cases
Like-
like these, you just can't look at them with.
It's not like, oh, we have to use his kid's
Based on
scent or
logic.
something. No, they found the boots. That's his scent exact.
Exactly.
And no dog could pick up on it. 2 dog teams.
And
And-
what really gets me is the amount of people that were looking for him. It wasn't some small family effort. It was 60 search and rescue people out there going through this land. There were 20 canine teams, and there were 2 helicopters trying to locate him, and no one saw a trace of him during this time. This was an experienced man. Hypothermia, maybe it set in on the second day or something, but you think he would have signaled? They started searching almost immediately for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he wasn't even there, but his things were.
And then yeah, his like just parts of him were found there.
Exactly.
Not even a full body.
Not the full body. Just
So that means
specific parts.
that means the rest of the parts are somewhere else
Yeah.
that haven't been found.
Exactly.
And what partially buried? What the fuck?
What does that even mean?
Like-
Exactly.
Like just sticking out of the ground. or
Sticking out of the
something? I don't
ground?
know.
Did an animal do that? Like who?
An animal wouldn't bury it.
No.
At all. No.
And what kind of animal? I mean,
Like-
would leave behind like a couple fragments of skull and your pelvis? What about rib cage? What about anything? Femurs?
A case about a child in the national parks that we'll cover hopefully sometime. Like 5 years later, I think it was, all that was found to him
Fragments of a skull.
was his skull cap and 1 molar tooth. And that was it.
That would not deteriorate. Like there would be some kind of fragments. And what's really weird is once again those items which we'll cover seem to have been placed
Yeah.
where they had already searched. And
It's not
just-
like he was running and his boots fell off.
no.
Like,
They were placed neatly.
Yeah.
Is what's really spooky. And if we can get a picture pulled up, his boots placed neatly along with his other items. And with
none of
something-
this makes sense at all.
No. And something that really spooks me is the sheer amount of time that has passed between these items. There were always
Yeah.
large. I mean, 9 months later on the Rain family, they find his backpack. And then 23 months after the investigation began,
Almost
over a
2
year after that-
years.
Exactly.
Almost 2
Almost 2 years.
years.
And after over a year after they found his backpack, they finally find his remains. Around
Like-
and what's really
And
frightening
it wasn't that far.
is it wasn't that far from the backpack, and it's always in clusters. It's always as if, and that's how these disappearances happen. They're in clusters, so it's almost as if, in the same way that these disappearances are linked to each other, the evidence is linked to each other. And
Yeah.
it's always time, and it's always short distances.
But that's this guy's criteria, is it has to match a certain thing. And people say, oh, he's cherry picking cases, but you can't really cherry pick 2,000 cases.
That's a lot of cases. Like that is.
like,
I
even
think-
if you cherry pick from like 100,000, that's still so
That's still
many
a very,
that match
very
up.
clear pattern. That's still
Like-
big enough to you have to investigate, or someone has to. And what boggles my mind is that the coroner could not determine a cause of death.
Exactly.
Well, there
So-
wasn't much to go
There
off
wasn't much
of
to
it.
go
No.
off of, but
Because it's been 2 years. You
I
can't
mean-
really get anything.
it's
But-
just insane. Because what bothers me too is they don't mention whether his jacket was torn or anything, but the fact that his jacket was still intact enough to find his socks, but when they were finding fragments of his skull and his
Like-
pelvis, like his clothing was still. That means it doesn't seem like he was attacked by animals.
And if he was attacked, he's armed.
He's armed.
He has a sidearm and a bow. Like, he could fight back. He could retaliate. He could, like, if there was a person trying to do this, he would have attacked them.
Mm-hmm.
He would have fought for his life. There's no signs of struggle
No.
in any of these.
And it's not like there were undermanned, there were not enough resources. There were 2 whole counties looking for this one man
Exactly.
in a very small area, relatively speaking, for a county size to look through. Like 2 counties looking for this man. And everyone posits if he was getting hypothermia, he couldn't have gone far from where he left his stuff. somehow his remains end up 6 miles later.
Severely hypothermic.
Severely to have been taking off clothes like that. Supposedly, that's
Like-
what he was and why his clothes are like that.
See, the children wandering off, a lot of people say they could wander, they could get lost. I don't think that, for some of the details we'll get into later, but sure, say they wandered off. These are grown adults to elderly adults that most are armed, most know their land extremely well. There's no reason for any of this to happen.
Absolutely not.
Nothing like this should be happening and going unsaid about all of it.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, this should be a PR nightmare.
Exactly.
For these parks. And this should be a PR nightmare for these areas.
like, I get I want to be in nature. I don't want society's technology. And yeah, okay. But carry something on you.
Exactly.
Like-
in the documentary, they
like-
recommend a certain amount of things. They recommend always have a GPS of some sort.
Even just a little, like, find me little chip that you put in your backpack.
Yep.
You don't have to interact with it. It's just it's there.
Yeah.
Like a find my iPhone type thing.
If you can, reflective materials, flares,
Because like
no SOS signals, wave your coat above your head, anything to get yourself noticed.
we're going to get into some of the conspiracies to reasons we think this happens, but all of them just either kind of fit but only for a couple, or they might be strong for one case but they're just cut down for the others. And we'll get into that here shortly. All right, boys. What do we have here that we're somewhat going to try and explain any part of these weird-ass cases?
Woo! The fucking squatch noises.
What we started off with in the beginning. Squatch.
I mean,
So,
come on.
okay. Yes, those noises could have been that. But,
They could have been so many things.
okay, a squatch. That could be 7'3" to 8 feet. But would that not leave prints?
But here's what I'm
Yeah, they
thinking.
leave
Would,
discernible prints.
would a
All
hunter not shoot it?
Yeah, but the only thing I can rationalize it being a squatch is you look at it the same way as like the predator story. Like, how do we know there aren't squatches that just track you in the trees because they know hunters have been going around since natives, were around. If they've lived this long, the only way I can think is that they would kind of be like almost like Ewoks, where they just
I'm not saying
Vibe in trees.
squatches don't exist.
yeah,
I'm
it's
just
unlikely
saying,
too.
like, how would a squatch
I'm just trying to think of how it could be.
fully remove any trace of a person? There was no conflict. There was no fight.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of
The
squatches
hunters
for
did-
the first because
Yeah.
there was just no real conflict. There was
Hunters
just
never
noises.
fought, never
Exactly.
fired, shot.
Mhm.
They're gone.
Yeah, I really don't believe that Squatch is behind any of this. Really,
No.
It's
But here's the
too
But
out
then
of
here's the
character
thing.
for what
Here's the thing, though.
Squatch
Like,
is.
there-
Those
there
noises-
would be tracks.
It's squatch.
Yeah, because
Like-
the
or
Bigfoot
it's-
hunters, they're
yeah.
like #1 proof is
Which no,
big ass footprints.
Squatch is comforting for the first one because that's like tangible.
Yeah.
If it's not Squatch, that's some like Mothman
fucking
cryptid
noises?
shit. Those noises, like, are you telling me there's Mothman up there? Like,
Okay, I'm entertaining this because this is a bit of a side tangent. I fully 100% believe there are cryptids on our planet. I believe this because I personally have had an experience. When I was like, I think 9-ish, I was visiting my dad for like a week in the summer. And like the whole day we were out swimming, and we come back and we had to leave because it started raining heavily. And so, this all happens in extremely small town Minnesota, Hill City, population of like 600. All right, they don't even break 1,000.
South Dakota, Minnesota.
No, it's Minnesota. No, yeah, population like 600 when I was there. I don't know what it currently is, but so we come back and it's maybe 7:30. And so we just play games outside for like a couple hours, and it starts to get darker, and it's it's extremely dark at this point. To like our only light is moon and streetlights, and everything's like shiny because it heavily rained, so it's all wet. All these blades of grass are wet.
RTX is on.
Yeah, and so we're playing Ghost in the Graveyard, and
Fun.
yeah, so our point is behind the house, and so me and my dad's girlfriend's kid, I think he was like a year or two younger than me. We run around, we go to the front of this house, and as we run the corner, we see this thing. It's it's on all fours, and it on all fours it stands maybe 3.5 to 4 feet, and it has its front legs are like dog legs almost, and its back legs are like almost flamingo-ish, like they bend right in the middle, and it has deep, like Vanta black eyes. It turns and looks at us, and there's no like nose, there's no mouth. It's just flat. It looks at us, and as we see it, we slip on the grass because it's all wet. My heart raced a million miles an hour. My only thing was to get up and run. And as we slipped, it looked at us and bolted under the deck. We got up and we ran, hysterically crying, into the house and like telling them everything that just happened, trying to explain it in our just extreme crying. And for like they don't believe us at first, because who the fuck would? But for the rest of the night, our motion lights flicker, like not like they come on for no reason then go off, like they flicker, and then they go off, and they come on and they flicker, and the doorbell rings for the rest of the night. And I
Fun.
just fucking scarred me for life. Christian, if you can bring up a picture, this is what it most closely looked like. It not quite this, but this is what it most closely resembled.
Oh Jesus! Not the Dover.
Like,
See, okay.
the head wasn't this big, but the same type of like
This-
legs and like human-like look, and like no mouth, no nose.
This is exactly
That.
what my older brother Nicholas and his friend Austin Fairbanks mentioned that they saw, and they were just in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, dicking around in his backyard, out kind of by the little swamp marsh, kind of a couple miles out going towards Walmart, and they were just dicking around there playing with airsoft guns, with him and his buddy and his buddy's older brother, and it started to get sundown, and they just saw like this weird figure, and they just were seeing movement out in the tall kind of marshy grass, and they couldn't really tell what it was. A lot of dead trees around, and they just had no clue really what was going on. They assumed it was just some animal, maybe a fox, maybe a wolf, but definitely not, probably. And they were just wondering, like, what could it be? And they just kept playing, got a little bit closer and closer back home as it started to get more and more dark. And then finally, it's almost sundown. It's summer, so it's about like 9, 10. Kind of like that dusky kind of period where the sky is pink and orange, and it's just starting to get really shadowy, and places underneath trees or in kind of thick bushes are just getting really dark. And they just see it being separated, the grass is being separated, coming at them, towards them. I'm like, oh, okay, it's coming towards us. So they just start to run, and they book it, running as fast as they can towards his house. His house has this big deck behind it, and it's not like a deck that's like, 3 feet up or anything. No, this is like a deck that's like 6 feet up. Like it's a whole floor, and there's a screen door underneath the deck to go to their lower floor because it's in a hill. And as they run, they're running up the stairs, trying to get upstairs because the bottom floor screen door's always locked, and they're running up, and they just see this thing, and the way they describe it is a lot like you described. They said it had just like black eyes, like matte black. They couldn't see a mouth. They said it had like a large head. They didn't see back legs, but they said the front legs were just like thin and like sickly almost. And that they couldn't see its hands, but whatever the hell it was just stalked them. And it was like sick. It was like a sickly pale, but at the same time its eyes were just black, black, black. And it was just moving back and forth the entire night. And that they could just look out the fucking window for the rest of the night, and they would just keep seeing the bushes and the grass moving, this thick, tall grass. And they didn't have motion lights or anything, and all that they had was the moonlight. But the thing was that there was no breeze outside, and they had their window open, but just grass moving back and forth for the rest of the fucking night. And none of them could fucking sleep, because the oldest of them was like 13, and then my brother's friend was like 12, and my brother was like 7. And so he's just like, what the fuck? And it's shit like that. Like, this world's too fucking big
Like,
to know everything that's going on, and I don't even want to know.
just from like that personal experience, I fully believe in like cryptids and like unknown creatures that we just have no idea of still.
Oh, yeah.
So to get back on track,
Yeah.
I believe in the possibility of a Squatch, but I do not believe it was part of any of these cases.
No, me
It would have
neither.
left a track. It wouldn't have been able to remove scents.
No. You would smell... They'd be stinky motherfuckers.
Exactly.
Like, Christian, you'd be able to smell Squatch. You would know what a Squatch smelled like.
But
Yeah.
all right.
Like,
You
you'd be
have
like,
any more
ah,
input
it's
on
one
this
of
one?
them.
No, I don't really have anything about Scotch. I just don't think it's anything.
Do you have anything
worth...
with any sort of cryptids?
Not really, no. But
Lucky fuck.
City slicker. But
So
the next,
our next one
little
is
crack potty.
it's always a cop out, but it seems like
It's a
some of these
possibility.
could be a possibility. UFOs or aliens.
Or some kind of other.
Yeah. Unworldly.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know about these ones.
I don't either. I mean,
I
I feel like it's the easiest way
the
to
easiest
explain
way to
it.
it's the most
explain it.
comforting.
it's the most
Yes.
comforting is that it's not something
Just
here.
aliens,
It's
aliens,
nothing on the
aliens.
world. It's random. We can't understand it.
Just saying that, to say, oh yeah, it's aliens is comforting, just shows how fucked
Fuck
these
it.
cases are.
Fuck these cases are. Like, dude, aliens sticking shit up your ass and leaving your naked dead body in the fetal position in the water 2 miles away from where you were lost is not a comforting thought, but it's more comforting than
Unknown.
Unknown. Like, human brain just cannot handle things
that's-
it can't understand.
That's like the fear of the dark. You're not you're not scared of being alone. You're scared you're not alone.
Exactly.
Like, so to have an unknown, people just do not like.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So they just want to place something on it, and I feel like that's a lot of what the aliens are. Cause I feel like if
There's one case in here that reeks of some kind of alien interaction, and that's Jan's story.
the predator
Predator.
one,
Yeah.
That's one that I can like.
That's undeniable because 30
Yeah.
to 40 witnesses.
of that.
Like, try and get
yeah.
30 to 40 high schoolers to agree on anything.
Yeah, I can get you an entire city. It's called Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah.
Government still says it didn't happen. It's like, yeah, they didn't
But-
see nothing.
Yeah, like, just that, okay. If it was just her saying, oh yeah, I saw this thing in the woods,
I'd
be
be
like, okay. But the pictures.
The picture, it's
She
really low
had
quality.
pictures, she had pictures before in the proper resolution of that phone. And then the one right between. That
And if
just
I remember right, they
fucks
are
it.
time stamped. I believe
I
they
think
might
so.
not be, but
But, like,
if they're time stamped, that adds even more credibility.
This isn't an iPhone. This is an old BlackBerry
Yeah,
that only has like a outward facing camera.
and it has like 3 settings for resolutions.
Yeah.
and this is at an impossible resolution for that camera.
You just you again, you can't change it to be that resolution. Which is just fucked.
And the weird thing that gets me is like people be like, oh, of course, alien in a invisibility suit, but it's like, is it really in an invisibility suit, or is it in some kind of just like,
What I also
It's
think it could have been was this cuts into another one of our ones we'll go on in a minute, but that could have been a certain spot where like maybe like a dimension or some like some sort of space was getting too close to itself.
Yeah, who
And
knows?
starting to like ripple maybe.
Yeah, that's
That doesn't explain the movement through trees though.
yeah. I mean, the way I look at
Like
it is like
intended movement.
I feel like saying that whatever it was invisible. Like it wasn't invisible. She saw it outlined. It was obviously
And-
some kind of camouflage thing.
Something else I've been thinking. I think I talked with Christian about this, but a lot of these things are like that or like ghosts or stuff. I don't know if they're invisible or if their
Yeah.
form is just too complicated
We don't
for
we
our
can't-
brains to
yeah,
understand.
We can't
So
comprehend
our
it.
brain comforts us by just not comprehending it.
Yes.
Like, nope, that doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Or like the suit. It's like, yo, if you can't believe that
Like-
like an alien could have some kind of retroreflective panels, it's
Like,
like, bro, I bet we have shit like that.
The way it
that
was
we don't
shown
know
was
about.
like when you see those wet spots on the road way ahead, and then you get up there and there's nothing.
Yeah, like a mirage.
probably like that.
Yeah,
It's
like
kinda
a mirage almost.
And I wouldn't doubt that if it was some kind of alien doing whatever the hell it was doing, that it wouldn't have some kind of, maybe an EMP field generator, some kind of thing to disrupt technology, or like make it so she couldn't take an extremely well-defined picture of it, zoom in the
Yeah.
resolution. Like,
Because I
yeah,
will
but that
say,
doesn't explain the silence either.
it doesn't.
No. I will say, if anything was able to get to our planet, because what we've guaranteed that like nothing in how many million light years away is life.
Yeah.
So if something was able to get here,
It'd be
they're
far advanced.
so technologically advanced that they would have that. And like, okay, think about it. Our universe, apparently, from what we can tell, has been around for 4.3 billion years, right?
And it's supposedly
And
infinite.
It's supposedly
We
infinite,
haven't found an
but
end
as
to it
well,
yet.
our species, us humans, have only been around for about 20,000 years. Say some other species had a million-year head start on us. That's not that long in the spectrum of the universe, but that's
Technological.
incredibly long. Like 20,000 years.
60 to 2020.
Nin-
Like at 60 years.
In only 20,000 years, we went from fire
crawling through the mud.
to modern day computers and sending people to the moon.
I wouldn't doubt that in another 60 years, technology would be so far beyond advanced, like we can't even comprehend the ways that'll change.
No.
So you give
we have
someone
no idea.
You give someone a million years ahead of us
And that's not that much in the
s-
scope
yeah,
of the universe.
in the scope of the universe, and in
They could
similar
probably
circumstances.
just go faster than light.
Yeah.
Or like,
What scares me a fuck ton though is like the science fiction stories that cover FTL, and it's always like, yo, they're using dark matter. But then the way dark matter works, like if they used dark matter,
Like-
wouldn't that just produce more, therefore fucking the
like,
universe?
that's the other thing.
It's like,
Maybe these things
Maybe
were
we don't want
untrackable
yeah.
because say they were made out of something they're almost guaranteed not carbon based.
No.
Say they were even an element we don't know or dark matter based.
Yeah. Bet your ass there's some fart cloud aliens out there that we just don't even like. There's not.
Like,
I don't think they'll be
but-
humanoid
but
like us
then-
unless they're very.
But
close.
then we have the no tracks from even the people.
Mm-hmm.
No fighting. No
Exactly.
like I'm not going down without a fight.
It's almost like something's observing us. We just have no comprehension of what it
Like,
is.
It seems like someone just I don't want to use the word possessed, but just like
But something possessed them
took
to do
them
it. Yeah.
over and
It's
did
the
that.
best
If
word.
they even did it.
It's the best word if something like that happened. And
You have any input on this, Christian?
Or it's almost like something just like picked them up, left something there, brought them somewhere else, left something there,
yo,
brought them somewhere else.
Here's what this
It
is.
just
This is
brought
all-
them along a path.
this
It's
is
just-
all a Bethesda game, and they're just activating the console commands. That's all it is.
Like,
There's just no clipping.
There's no clipping.
but also like leaving the boots like that after people have already searched that area.
It's spooky as fuck.
It's like a taunt.
But if I became like god level sentience and was able to fuck with the simulation, you bet your ass I'd be doing that.
Yeah.
Like, yo, where'd I go? My
But-
boots are lined up.
All right. Or
I left my monster on this hill for y'all. Cheerio.
our next theory coming up is one people have proposed and apparently have witnesses of in like some national parks is like feral people like
Okay.
living off the grid. And like okay, to do that wouldn't be that hard. Like Ted Kaczynski, Unabomber. He just went down and
Disappeared.
Was it Utah or Montana? Just into the wilderness,
One
just
of the
built
hick
himself
states.
built himself a cabin and lived there. Like that wasn't hard.
But
so how
nowadays-
hard would it be in the vastness of
In the
national
vastest
parks
national parks,
to just set up a little hut?
the thing that
All right, we're here
spooks
now.
me is like, how would they remain undetected for so
Exactly.
long? Like, they'd have to be
How
so
many
still.
hikers are here?
How
How many national park rangers are here?
And here's the thing.
How none of the FBI has found them?
I just want to say fuck this theory because this theory is probably the scariest. Because this theory means like
It would
some
explain.
wrong turn.
It would explain
shit.
the language.
It would explain the
It
language.
would explain the laughing.
the laughing. Like
that was laughing. I
That was
guarantee.
laughing
Like
in
it
that
sounds
clip.
like it's so close
we'll
to.
pull it up, but that was legitimately laugh. They were taunting. That's some Blair Witch shit, but they can actually hear it and like tangible. Like that's a better found footage film I just watched than anything else. And I hate this theory because the one that bugs me the most. Because aliens,
But-
I'm like aliens.
But
I'm
also
fucked.
with this though,
This is like
no, a hunter
Cannibal
would
raping
have
you.
shot them.
yeah.
They would have been seen. They would have
Unless-
been heard.
But they've been living off the land so long, maybe they just know how to not make noise,
But they
not
remove.
leave a trail.
They remove the hunter's scent.
But yes,
They
exactly.
leave
that's just-
no trace of
that's
them
just-
at all.
Yo,
That's
No
the
blood,
only-
no
that's the one
clothes,
thing.
no dropped shells,
here's the
no
spook.
dropped arrows,
Here's
no.
the spook thing, dude. What if, alright, this big boy, this totally implausible, but what if it's the reason why like the dogs can't pick up the scents is because they're trying to find human scents and these things are like not Homo sapien, like Neanderthal type genealogy shit.
No, something else I've also heard in some of these cases. I don't think we had it in any of these, but sometimes the dogs they don't lose the scent. They refuse to go on.
Go on. Yeah.
They know there's a scent there, but they're just like, nah, that's not a good time. Like they just lay down and won't continue. That's so fucked.
Yeah, this is the one that bugs me the most just because it's the most unpleasant. Cause it's like, yeah, it's so much nicer to think aliens or Sasquatch or like demons or interdimensional than, yo, these inbred hill people skull fucked this guy
But
and scattered his remains and are taunting.
again, you would find DNA on
You'd find
the
something.
remains or something,
Yeah, it's
or
like-
on the bag, or
Something.
one of the hunters would have not gone out without a fight.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
Old grandpa with that blind eyes popping off a couple shots. I'm surprised he didn't accidentally shoot one of the other watchers, I'm being honest.
this just doesn't happen.
If Dick Cheney can do it
And-
twice, so can the Hunter once.
Okay, so you say it's feral people. If Christian can put a map of these clusters, that's like
All over the
half a fucking population of our country is feral people. Then
Yeah.
there's so fucking many.
Hey, we all right here in the Midwest, though.
No,
Two in
barely.
Minnesota.
Oh, for the one that they showed,
Yeah, for the one that showed.
Christian found one.
Yeah.
Horrible. Like the only place that's safe is Tornado Alley for some reason.
Yeah.
There's like no cases there, no
Very
clusters.
few.
And another thing I saw was a lot of these missing reports also for some reason line up with limestone caves.
Feral people hide in the limestone caves.
But again, that's so many cases of feral people that just
yeah.
they aren't found.
Don't I think it was
Not one of them ever slipped up. Not one of them ever left evidence. Not one of them ever left blood. Not one of them
Yeah.
ever left that. Nobody ever once shot at them. Nobody ever
Yeah.
once saw them. Nobody ever once
I'm not.
found anything from them.
I'm not a geologist, obviously. I'm not a biologist, obviously, but
We're just some kids fucking around.
crackpot theory though is like, okay, you know about cave gases and shit killing people, driving them crazy, hallucinogenics. Maybe the reason why like some limestone cases, maybe there's some kind of weird fungal shit going on. Could be cordyceps, could be some kind of shit that just makes your brain go a little bit whack ass. Who knows?
But
Who knows?
I think another hole with the feral people is that they would have to have been around for over 100 years.
Yup.
How have they progressed with us to be able to do this still?
Never been caught once,
Okay.
apparently.
I just don't
But
think that one's plausible.
Then how about Fred Drum, who went missing from his home?
Just gone, no sign.
Just done.
The
He's
same
gone.
struggle.
He's gone. The same day Tom's search ended, only 40 miles away. It makes absolutely no sense. Or
Yo, I go missing. Pelosi finally got me.
okay. Say it's feral people, okay?
I don't.
Would they not eat you
Oh yeah.
or something?
Rape you.
How about what was her name?
I feel like they'd use the whole part of the Homo sapien. They'd skin you
Yeah, she was just left in the fetal position.
naked.
No, naked. No damage to her.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Like, the first thing I thought was naked feels I'm like sexual assault.
But
then,
no,
like,
there's nothing for that.
It's
There was
like-
no possible cause of death, they said. And that just makes absolutely no sense with everything else. And
I feel like that's a really cool thing to do, though, is like, yo, if I ever go missing and then just blame a random person, like, I'm just gonna implicate as many people as I can.
if I die, it was Obama.
If I die, it was definitely either R. Kelly, Jesse Smollett, or Nancy
But-
Pelosi.
All right.
Just to
So
name names.
we kind of covered the dimensional one.
I want to go into the government's so multi-branched.
It could be the government. That's why they cover up all this. So that's why they add help sometimes. Like, oh, guys, look, we're looking for them. But
Then
then
again,
But that just draws more attention to them.
And
this draws more attention.
here's the problem with the whole, like, when we say the government, who the fuck are we talking about? It's such a wide branch. Like,
And this isn't just America. There's
No,
bunches in
no.
Canada too.
yeah, and like,
And
Other
I think
countries, too.
yeah, Europe
when
too.
we say government, it's such a. It could be the post office. It could be the like. I don't doubt
But-
that there are extremely dangerous like cells of the government that are completely separate from what we have.
Taking people for human experiments.
Taking people for a human experience, Project
But
Monarch.
then why
Operation
would they come
Northwoods,
back?
Shit like that,
Why would they come back, leave a thermos and an energy drink on a rock,
to further propagate the myth
and
the
put
culture,
his
create
body?
more mystery? Because
But-
think about all this shit.
Okay.
None of it ties together in like a
But-
coherent way to solve.
Mushroom Lady, she was gone for not even that long, a couple days,
Yeah.
and her body was fully fine.
Exactly.
Like,
That's the thing is like who the fuck knows what. It's like, and these coroners like, yo, you know how easy it is to pay off a. Not saying I've ever.
but you wouldn't think.
I don't
even-
have any first-hand experience with this, but I'm just saying it is so easy to
You don't
pay
think
someone off to do an
even
autopsy.
one of them would come out and be like, "Yeah, I was paid off." Like even on their deathbed. This has been over 100 years.
Yeah.
So on their deathbed, like, yeah, the FBI's all about this. They paid me off.
But would they even know that's the like? They would never even know who paid them.
They would say somebody paid me off to give false results.
Yeah.
But we've never gotten any of that.
Exactly.
But
I don't know, but
like,
that see that's like
search teams.
You would
Search
think
teams
that.
aren't even related with that.
Yeah.
These are pure volunteer civilians
Absolutely.
that find nothing.
Fine, no.
These dogs. You can't pay off a fucking dog
no,
from
no,
the
no,
government.
No.
Like
Absolutely
that
not.
find no cent.
Exactly.
Nothing.
You can't. You legit can't.
Like
I'm
it's
just saying,
not
all of these are
proper.
equally as plausible almost, and as improbable.
But
as-
also none of them are
Yeah.
possible almost.
one thing that could be okay, alright, is it's just very improbable, but the people that just don't get found, dude, yo, it's Dick Cheney and his hunting boys. I mean, come on now, when you're rich and you are bored, people hunt people, man, like, I'm just saying. I ever go missing?
like the most dangerous game.
Yeah.
That fucking story.
Yeah, you think
Yeah.
that?
You get bored, and I'll hunt a person.
Yeah, you get bored. Like, dude, I mean,
They catch me.
look at
whatever,
all these
I'll
weird
kill myself.
sexual deviant rich men that like, oh, no, just I don't know, I only got a plane full of fucking,
That's another thing. All the
child sex
all the
slaves,
rich
islands.
guys in Jeffrey Epstein's black book that we just don't care for some reason.
Yeah.
They're just fine. We let them all free.
Slick Willie.
We let them all go. Yeah.
Fuck. Sorry.
But like
Shit.
all of that. Christian, you got any other theories on this?
Number 42. Not Jackie Robinson.
Jesus.
President 42.
I feel like the government is just such a.
It also feels like a cop out almost.
Yeah, it's just.
Oh, government. It's government. It's government. Like,
All right. Exactly, but it's like that's
like
why there's such a problem.
nobody slipped yet?
Yeah, right? It's like who? But some of these people, it's like almost like the ground just opened up and ate them, but there's no evidence of that. So it's like,
I know on a case I want to cover sometime. There was this guy who was on a bus. Many people were like, "Yeah, that guy was on a bus," and then they all get off, and they're just like, "Yeah, he never got off. Nobody ever saw him again. He just disappeared, just gone." Like that's almost possible. That oh fuck, dimensional rip. Damn it. All right, well, like that sound. If you would have said that like 20 years ago, you'd be considered fucking crazy.
Yeah.
okay,
But with just how much bullshit's been actually told to us now that hasn't just been hidden and shut out. Now, they're still fucking trying, but like,
Exactly.
I don't-
and it's
I
just
don't-
That's why, like, it spooks me out too, because there's the I think he was a French inventor, and he was one of the first people, if not the first, to invent a working camera, and I think it was, Louis Le Prince.
we can go into a whole episode about people who invented stuff.
Yeah.
Who are just gone.
Or Louis Le Prince. He was a French inventor. He stepped into a train and just disappeared from history. And he shot film before Edison. He had a camera working. It was very rudimentary and it wasn't as good, but it was totally his invention, and he was going to go show it off, and he just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
He was just gone. And it's like, that was so long ago, that pisses me off, because mysteries like that are just ones we can't solve. And I don't want these ones to be like that, where people 100 years from now are, and it's just too long to find anything.
It's all of these fucking things are so just not right.
Exactly.
Like, why would a Squatch take people specifically from, like, boulder and granite fields?
Right?
Like, specifically from near bodies
I
of
didn't know
water.
Squatches had, like, an MO. They're like, oh, shit, okay, 7
Exactly.
o'clock, back at the boulder
Why-
field,
why
away
would-
from my wife.
Why would feral people just, like, oh, yeah, we're only taking the coasts. We're not going inside. We're not going to the Midwest.
I mean,
Like-
I can see why. We got too many Hicks that'll kill him here. Probably the Hicks drove him out.
They're
Hey,
like-
that's my cousin, not yours.
They're like-minded.
Right? They're like-minded.
But,
They're
like-
the same. It's just the de-evolved ones.
If it was any part of the government, why is there nothing from the Midwest, really?
Right?
The Tornado Alley. Wouldn't they cover the entire U.S. so nothing would be tracked to them?
Oh, yeah.
There's no pattern to it. They wouldn't leave a pattern.
I think the scariest thing is if all of these are not specific, like, the circumstances are all connected, but there's no, like, specific connected reason. Like, it's all, they could all individually be one different case of who knows what. And
But then that's so many weird fucking cases that
Coincidences. There's-
come together.
and shit,
That's 2,000.
as equally as shit can be coincidental, is as equal as it's not. And this is definitely a pattern. And now, there is the serial killer theory, which I think is extremely unlikely. It'd have to be like a cult of people carrying this
Yeah.
on for years, and even then, evidence...
But again, why all around our coasts? Why all these weird patterns?
I don't know.
Why?
I
Exactly.
don't think a normal person could
Remove
do
sense.
that.
Yeah.
Put things 12 miles from where they are.
Yeah. It's just,
And I know one of the kid ones, I don't like to keep bringing this up because I want to cover it in its own episode, but one of the kids was reported missing. Like, the second he was actually missing. And I think, like, 6 minutes later, a hiker reported seeing a kid who matched the exact description as him, like, 9 miles away. Like, just in a little, like, cave hard to get to.
He got taken for a ride.
He got 9 miles away.
E.T. picked
In-
him up and dropped him off.
In minutes. I'm probably wrong in that location, but a long ways away.
He was a
in,
hitchhiker.
In mere minutes. Like, that's just not possible.
I wouldn't doubt if this is just like a drunk alien, like, fraternity.
But then why do we never get UFO sightings
that's
around
how
here?
they're hazing people.
This is
That's
how they're
they haze
hazing
the aliens.
They're hazing the aliens. They're hazing each other.
Go cause some chaos.
Go cause some chaos, man. Like, this seems like the stupid shit fraternities come up with. Alright, man, we got the boulder field. Okay, we got the brewskis. Yo, shit. Timmy, turn off the fucking headlights, bro. Get that candle orange shit out of here. Like the
then-
strobe lights.
Like Tim Mussick. Nobody around him saw anything.
Yeah.
He was just gone.
He was just good. Exactly. That's like what is going on there.
Or, like,
Just to preface, we're recording this at 4:50 the day before school starts for us.
yeah.
So if we sound a little
4:50 a.m.
Yeah, so if we sound a little that's why.
But
I mean, and dimensional shit too. It's like that's so far beyond our comprehension. Where if you choose dimensional shit, you just have to say, okay, dimensional stuff. Like, that's why I like. Okay, I don't want to sound fucked, but that's why I like true crime when it comes to like serial killers and murders, because there's shit there that leads to something. You can solve it. You just need the pieces. and maybe a
And,
little bit of luck and a little bit of
with that, you
circumstance.
have a person to blame. You
have
have
a
a
person
reason
to blame,
for
you have a
this,
reason,
or even like if it's
a
a no
motive.
reason, there you go.
You have a motive. You have
But
something.
you have an answer.
But mysteries. Like
People
true
do
crime
not like the
mysteries,
unknown.
Unsolved mysteries is just no.
And
Like, and here, like, at least with shit like Jack the Ripper, like, it's awful, it's horrible, but you get that, like, it's a murder.
Yeah.
It's a serial killer. It's someone fucked in the head. There's no one to blame. You can't even blame the people who got lost. Because you don't even know if they were in their right mind or they were forced or what. And, well, yeah, like, Aaron. Could have been hypothermia.
but then that
But then explain all the different things. And
exactly, that just doesn't work.
it's like maybe he got hypothermia, but then who was moving all his stuff? Which
Yeah.
then goes to some weird, shadowy, like, person or group, and it's just like, what? I swear, you know what this is, okay? This is, like, one really, really bored, like, third, maybe, like, it'd be, like, fifth dimensional entity. Just, this is his, like, day hobby when he's off work. He's just like, yo, gonna go fuck with those third dimensional plebs.
I'm gonna go make sounds to the guys in the forest.
Hey, you can't perceive what I am.
Like, what the fuck?
Either that or the simulation's breaking.
Yeah.
Which, okay, simulation theory is cool and all, but I feel like some people shouldn't know what it is because then that might give them, like, a bit of mild, like, sociopathy almost. We're like, yeah, nothing matters. It's all simulation. I can do what I want. Like, nah. If it's a simulation, we're all stuck in here together. And that's another thing. Like, there's nothing that explains this. I mean, like, Christian, okay. Let's say you disappeared. Like, you walked outside and you're gone. Your shoes are left behind 9 miles that way. And then you walked barefoot. And let's say on this road, all there is glass. And you had to have supposedly walked there, but there's no blood, and no DNA, and no tracks, and we can't pick up your scent. And then let's say another 6 miles, we find your hat and your shirt, and it's like, oh, hypothermia. But then, like, bro, what? Okay, well, he walked 6 more miles of hypothermia. And then, finally,
No, yeah.
we wait 9 months, and we find, like, your glasses. I'm like, okay, oh, this is rough. Okay, what's going on? And then we find nothing, but it's all in, like, the same area. And then, you know, like, 14 months later, it's like, oh, a tooth.
Yeah.
Like, that's the type of shit that this is, and it's just...
Mm-hmm.
What are we supposed to, like...
Yeah.
And these all are in secluded areas. It's not like there's some, like... It's not like you can be like, okay, it's New York City. Yeah, this person got their, you know, liver stolen.
Yeah.
Like...
This is all around. Not even just the U.S., Canada,
North
Europe.
America. A lot.
Yeah.
It's all around the world.
I think, Yosemite is the most missing people
Yeah,
ever?
like 50 plus or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm fine not going there.
Yeah, same.
I've always, okay.
There's probably more
Yosemite,
than 50 plus.
I've never gotten people that went
That's
there
just
anyways.
the reported.
Yeah, it's
I've
reported.
never gotten people that go there anyways because they're like, yeah, it's so beautiful. Bruh, that shit erupt. This entire continent's fucked for years, decades, not like 100 years. And now that I know that it's like the most missing people like there, yeah,
fine.
sure, I want to go. Like, nah, I'm good going to the lake.
I
on the
can look
weekend.
at a video of the geyser.
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool, nice.
As we say all this, we want to make sure all of y'all stay safe. Try and keep with you, to keep yourself safe, in your pack, some identification, an ID, something like that. Extra water you plan on drinking, extra water you don't plan on drinking, something to get you through if you can't find a source of water. A trash bag is really helpful. There's a raincoat, a tarp, something to sit on if you need it. Carry a satellite phone if you can, something to get in contact with others, radio, walkie-talkie, something, GPS, or even like a compass if you don't want something technological, just so you can get your way around, make sure you get your way around. Like I was saying earlier, a personal locator, something where people know where you are, they can find you if you're not responsive. A whistle, as much as you want to think yelling travels very far, it really doesn't, and just the shrill of a whistle travels way, way farther. Wear bright colors when you're going out, so if you're lost, you can signal anything overhead, people can see you through thick brush. Tell someone where you're going, when you expect to be back. If you don't show up, to call services, because those first 24 hours you're missing are the most important. Don't wander. If you told somebody where you are and they call services and you've wandered off, they have no idea where you went, how to get to you.
The minute you are lost, try
Yeah.
to plant yourself if you can, if it's safe.
And if you are one of the hunters going out and you were lost, extra ammo never hurts. Just even a couple extra shells to respond to people if you hear them. Anything else, just stay safe. It sounds like a lot, but
Your safety is worth it.
yeah, like a knife, something to cut anything up, a fire starter if you don't know how to make fire, just anything to help yourselves with, and stay safe. I think this is the end of this for MindCancer. We'll see you in the next one, Tumors.